Hello everyone, welcome back to the Silver Screen Dudes YouTube channel. My name's Nico Luro. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but I am blessed, humbled, and happy to welcome to the channel the director of, as it stands, one of my favorite movies of the year. The review for Autumn, or Minha Casinha, is out on the channel now. I'm happy to welcome to the channel, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, António Sequeira.
Perfect. That was perfect. Hello, guys.
Thank you so much, Antonio, for joining us today on the channel. And thank you for making such a great movie, man. Like, oof,
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate
it,
that you enjoyed it.
really, really great. Now, I wanted to talk to you right off the bat about the way that you gave the characters all equal importance in this movie, because I thought that was one of the movie's real strengths, is that there was no one character that had more screen time or outshone the other. And what I found interesting upon reflection about that is because traditionally, it's the female roles in these movies, they've been a bit minimalistic, just there to kind of serve the male. Now, especially when you consider that a huge part of the plot device was the son leaving and
Mhm.
also the dad going through what's basically a midlife crisis. But you chose to not just let the men have the spotlight, and it's arguably the women in the movie who stand tall and proud. So, how proud are you about what you've contributed to the drama genre here, and how do you see it moving forward with regards to women's roles?
Yeah, I think that naturally most people making movies they tend to go through their own experiences, and I think that we've seen the movies before a million times about the emptiness syndrome, but they usually are very surface level. They focus on one side, they either focus on the mom, they focus on the parents, but they don't focus on each member. And so, what I really wanted to do was to really portray in depth each person and their struggles. So we have the mom that has to go through an own arc of figuring out herself and her sense of worth. The dad who also goes through his own midlife crisis, and also the daughter she sees her brother going away and she has to find her own identity in that moment. And so the idea was to really just everybody gets their spotlight, and the movie starts, it seems like it's more mom and son, and then delves a bit more into then the father and the daughter. And I think that it's something because I think when I see my mom and how she was going through my situation, I was like, this is a story that her story needs to be told as well, and it can't just be put on the sidelines like maybe sometimes it's done to
Mm.
service the male characters. And so for me, that was like the key, just giving them as much screen time to explore the complexities of it. And because there is no right or wrong answer, right? The parents have to go and they have to let go of their kids, and the kids have to go away and go through their own life. But yet it's still a hard moment to let go. And it's a hard, I think, especially as our generation, we are staying longer with parents, until a longer age and moving out later on. I think this is becoming even more more topical.
Yeah, great answer. And so when you were like envisioning the movie and creating it, was there a lot of revisions and a lot of back and forth that was going on? So, for example, I can think of moments with the dad where you would have been going through one of his character arcs. Were there moments when you were like, okay, yeah, that's good, but what's going on with the mum over here, and what's going on with Thomas or the daughter over here? So was there a lot of back and forthing going on with the creation process?
Yeah, for sure. And also because we shot the movie like chronologically over 1 year, we kind of, as well as we were shooting, because the movie is set through in the seasons, we
Yeah.
kind of decided to do kind of Boyhood style and kind of actually shoot it, over 1 year. And so each season was kind of influencing the next one. And that was something that we was the idea initially as well, because I wanted to work with the actors as well and to see what did we feel about this season that we can now even push that is more interesting for the next time, that the characters can show us a different side next time. And so the script developed a lot throughout that process, and also talking with the actors, figuring out like now we focused here, what can we see, what's happening at the same time in Melinha or in the mom or in the daughter. And I think that also came because when we were doing the work with the actors, a lot of exercises we did was we would give them to a chance to write a diary of a moment in that season that they could find a day that they would write a diary passage, as the character. And sometimes in those diary passages, we could find a point of view of that character that I hadn't thought of, when I was writing the script of what was happening simultaneously. And then I'll be like, okay, let me see how I can insert that into a scene and figure out a way that it can work together with the rest. So that's kind of what you're saying. I was finding like what's happening simultaneously to that is happening.
Well, let's talk about the casting process then for Autumn, because you've got a real life father and daughter here, which is really cool. How adamant were you that you needed to get Miguel and Beatrice for the roles, and what was the casting process like?
So I've worked before with Beatrice. She's an actress that I worked in some short films before, and I really liked working with her. And she's a very young age, and so this is kind of reverse nepotism, where the daughter is the one that gets the dad the role. Because I remember meeting her dad through all those moments, and during the casting process, because the movie is shot over 1 year, it's a very complicated to get actors attached to be in, like I'm going to be here. If I get a Netflix project in 6 months, I'm still going to be here to shoot these, and so that was a hard thing, especially to get the dad, because it needs to be a person who can do both the sadder elements, but also the comedy part. It has to feel natural to the character. It can't just be a guy saying jokes. It has to feel like this is, part of who they are. And so that was a long process, and we couldn't find it. And then I remember having a lot of meetings with the dad of Beatrice, because of Beatrice being there and him bringing her to auditions or to other things. And so I always was like, he feels like the character. He feels like the character, but he doesn't have maybe the acting experience, because he used to be a stunt double before this. So he did a lot of like stunts, and he had some smaller roles, but not like a leading role. And so I remember actually having to like squeeze in a little audition without him knowing. Basically, I told Beatrice, do a self-tape as if you didn't get the role yet. Do a self-tape and ask your dad to do this scene with you. I'm going to give you a scene, and you're going to do the scene with him, and just tell him to do it like Louis, like he has to be good in it to help you, without him knowing he's the one being auditioned actually for the role. And so through that process, and then doing some chemistry tests, I was like, okay, this is going to be perfect. The two of them, they have the chemistry already, so it's going to bring a lot of really like veracity to the characters and to their relationships. And I think I was like in love with that the moment we started to rehearse.
Yeah, man, it showed on screen. That I mean, the natural chemistry was beautiful to behold. Okay, so you've done quite a few short movies now. You've done some documentaries. Can you describe how your creative process and how it has evolved over time from No Limitar de Pensamento to now this movie? How's it evolved?
Yeah, I mean, each movie is a little bit different. Each idea comes to us a little bit different. I think, especially Inception-wise, I tend to go to my life. I think that usually tends to be you grab things that are more personal to us, and they end up to resonate with people. I think that was something that I was very amazed with this movie. I wrote it based on some stuff I was going through. Then I started talking about with other people that were my friends, and they're also going through, all the same things, like almost like that everybody's going through the exact same situations, just in a different way. And then when we ended up showing the movie as well, like in Vietnam, for example, super far away, super different culture, and the people had similar. They were like, I also go through this. My mom puts me this thing in my luggage. It's not the bacalhau, it's the other thing, fish sauce. She puts fish sauce in my luggage. And so I really realized, I think as well with this movie, that's what I really realized, is to tapping onto those personal things end up being very universal. Everybody kind of goes through similar things. Even though we think we're all very unique, I think we all end up going through similar situations. And so I think that moving forward, that is even going to be more prominent, is to look into my life, into the things that we are going through, and see how can those be, turned into different movies. For example, now I'm working on a movie that is about like millennials in London trying to struggling with the housing crisis, and I think that those usually, when we bring those topics that you can resonate, usually you can actually talk about them in a more nuanced way. You can bring something really unique, rather than just being a storyline that you fully came up with. And then of course that comes the imagination part. Once you grab from the personal, then you imagine and you bring the whole new storyline into it. But if it comes from personal from the beginning, it helps me to kind of make it a bit more interesting.
That's really cool. So am I right in thinking, considering you draw so much from your personal life, that because in No Limitar de do Pensimento, you also talk about this kid going to university. Granted, he's got schizophrenia, so it's a
Mhm.
different thing, but going and leaving the home seems to be like a big thing that recurs in your movies. Is that something that's a reflection on your life, or what's the
Yeah.
inspiration there?
Yeah. Because I left as well to London to study cinema when I was 18, and so I saw that those things happening and how much that affects the parents, how much that affects everybody around, and then also just hanging out. Like London is full of people that are in a way all foreigners to the city itself, even if they're
Mm,
coming from different places of the country or of the world. Everybody is away from home, and I think that concept of home to me has been a gigantic part of the stuff I write, because I think it's as a foreigner as well, it feels you don't know where is your home. Like in UK, I'm Portuguese guy. In Portugal, I'm the British guy.
right.
And so it's finding the home where you call home is something I'm figuring out as well and trying to explore through the movies. So definitely, so all this stuff comes a little bit. Of course, it's exaggerated for the movies, but there's some elements that are from my personal life that I thought, I'm kind of dealing with those things, and then I put them into the story.
Very cool. Very, very, very cool. I love that. Now let's talk about the techniques for making a movie like this, because specifically with the camera work. Because so, what's the methodology for creating that sense of almost being a fly on the wall and just watching how this family's life is unfolding, and how thought out does each shot have to be to achieve that effect?
Yeah, we rehearsed a lot. We also wanted each sequence as each season to be a little bit, because the movie, you go through the winter, spring, and we wanted each season to have its specific look. So
Mm,
for example, we wanted the first time we meet them in autumn before he leaves, we wanted to do everything pretty much in a wonder, and the characters are always in the same shot, so that we feel the chemistry, we feel all this like family love, this family union. And then next times when we come, they're more separated in the shots. Slowly they start to be a bit more separated. We use handheld in some moments, and the others we try to use a little bit more top shots as well, to create a feeling of distance and alienation. And so that was the initial thought process, was to make each season reflect the family. In a way, the camera can become kind of like a reflection of the house, because the house can be the way we see the characters, and how distant they are and how close they are will be defined by the camera. And so that
mm,
was kind of the initial ideas, bigger idea. And then we worked a lot with was something I learned in film school that I take into my movies, and I think if anybody, young filmmakers also learning that they can take, is to pre-shoot the movies. So it basically means that, without all the crew there, you kind of grab a simple camera that you have, and you just shoot the whole movie as you have it in the shot list and everything, with stand-ins. And then that kind of gives you can edit it, and you can get an idea even before anybody you spend any money on the movie. You can get an idea how it's going to look, and you can adjust then to that. And so we did a lot of that to figure out, some things we thought would work in conceptually, and then it don't work in a movie.
mm.
And so that was a very good way to really figure out and nail the visual look from the movie.
I want to talk to you about the editing now, because you did something so clever in this film. That, I mean, it was one of those. It was just as I was kind of relaxing into the momentum of the movie, you then did something, and it was a split second, and it really made me sit up in my chair. And it's honestly one of the most brilliant editing decisions I've seen for years. And I think you know the one I mean. It was Summer.
Summer, yeah, okay, I thought so. Yeah,
Oh my god! Just showing the train coming and then cut, and it's straight to the next month. I was like,
yeah.
oof. Oh, that hit me hard. So that, I mean, genius. What was that something that was originally in the script, or was it an idea that you came up with? What was the inspiration behind making that decision?
Yeah, actually, it wasn't in the script. You're right. It was something that came in the editing. I think we figure out, we want to kind of put the audience into that gut punch of as the family when the kid doesn't come, the train just leaves. Doesn't come with anybody with it, and so we kind of wanted to put that feeling, and it came in the edit as I was like, instead of just passing from spring to the next autumn, I was like, let me show the summer and see
Mm,
how people react to that. And we did even test screenings as well to kind of see how people reacted, and that was a moment where it really gets everybody kind of a bit more close to the screen, because they're like, wait, what happened here? And they want to know. It moves them into the next season wanting to know what happened in summer, to figure
Yeah.
out what happened. And that was something that we're very happy that it worked.
Oh, dude, it works so well, and it's one of those moments of absolute cinematic beauty and simplicity, because at the basis, it's so simple. Train comes into station, fade to black, and you've said so much without saying anything with that. I thought, mwah, I was like chef's kiss to that one. That was brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate. I'm very happy that it worked.
All right, really did. And tell you what else worked, Rich. I want to discuss with you now is that final scene. It really made me like tear up a bit, when and it was again one of those really that I thought your whole movie was so like a collection of small quiet moments that worked, like when the dad's in the car with Belinha and they're just holding hands and then she comes to hold his hand. There's so much power in the things that are not spoken, but it's that final scene where the train's gone, they're both walking away, but it's the dad who turns around.
Yeah.
Because the whole movie you've set up that it's like, oh no, he's the one who's handling it. If they're happy, I'm happy. And it's the mom who's being a bit high strung about the whole thing. But then it's dad who's the one when both his kids are gone who turns around longingly. And yeah, directors often talk about the collaborative process with movies. So with that final scene, can you share how that came together? Was it something that the actors had a lot of input in? Was it Miguel saying like, no, let me be the one who turns around? Was there a big discussion about how to achieve that? Tell me.
Yeah, I think this one was kind of came a bit earlier, because it was I knew I wanted the movie to begin like I was saying with son and mother being the big link, and then as it progresses it goes into the father and the daughter, and that side and how that affects. And I think so that was something that we worked as well with the actor, with Miguel. We kind of rehearsed to see how can it make it so it doesn't feel too obvious. It's just a tiny look, right, that he gives, but it gets the feeling exactly as you're describing, which is before was the mom that was missing and looking before and exaggerating sometimes even these reactions, but now it's the father who's dealing with it, because that was one of the key as well character arcs that we wanted, because I felt that as well. I think as men, and I wanted to talk about that as men we feel the pressure not to show emotion. We feel like we need to, and I grew up, my dad was also like that. He was taught that, that as a man we don't cry, blah blah blah. And so, but then I think as we get older, and I saw my dad happen to him as well, the emotions start to creep in more, and start to be more open and allowing those in. And I think that especially a relationship between father and daughter, it's a different than father and son. And so I think when the daughter leaves, that's when he's not able to know more, to keep the mask. He's putting on this mask, like you're saying, of if they're happy, I'm happy all the time, and trying to be funny. But then when the mask falls, I think it's even more powerful, right? And as you were saying, I think people when they see that look, and when you see the father falling the mask, I think we feel it deep, because we know how it feels to do that.
Yeah. And it's such a fleeting moment. That's what I thought was powerful about it. And it almost makes you think, okay, he's looked back, the mask is down, and it makes you wonder, okay, what happens after the credits roll? Are they going back to the house and he's putting the brave face on for the mother? Is it going to be a continuation of the kids coming back and everything's okay? But it's that split second, his guard drops and he's looking back at his daughter. And honestly, mate, I look back at when the credits rolled and I was like, yeah, you got
Thank you.
well done. And completely alone. I wasn't in the cinema. I was in my bloody recording studio and I still applauded. I was like, well, bloody done. That was great.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Can you speak about some of the difficulties about shooting in what looked like quite a remote location?
Yeah, we basically shot in this area next to River Douro in North Portugal, but luckily we had the support of the council of the region, so they were helping us, getting everything. And because I think because it's a small town, everybody fell in love with the fact that we're shooting a movie there. And now, actually, after this, there's already been like 2 or 3 movies that have been shot there. So we
Nice.
revitalized their cinema industry in that region somehow with this movie, which is kind of great. But in that time, that was the first time, so everybody was so excited to be a part of. And even though there's, of course, there's some things that's a bit harder by the fact that it's remote. There's not much stuff around to be able, if you need to change a lens or send something that broke, it's a long time still to go to Porto. But at least we had the help of the council and the people of the town that literally opened their doors of their houses for us and let us, we shot some of the scenes of their house is another real person's house that we shot in, that they just let us in and shoot for the movie. So people were so helpful that it completely like overcame the difficulties of being remote place.
Love that.
It
All
was
right,
so
Antonio, last question. I love your work. Can I get some spoilers, some insights, some teasers into what your upcoming projects might be?
Yeah, I'm doing now. Like I was saying, we're writing this one about millennials in London struggling to find, with the housing crisis and how can they find a place to call home. Again, like the topics we're discussing. I'm also doing a rom-com, like a before sunrise, but for the millennial generation,
Nice.
set in Porto. So that's also the next one that we intend to shoot at the end of this year. And basically, I think all the movies that we'll make will end up being, in our company at Curious, we want to have movies that are hopeful, that are wholesome. I feel like there's already so much stuff in the world when you go to the news that make you feel terrible and makes you feel scary and scared and everything. And I think it's important that we have as well some movies that people get to come out of it with a nice feeling. And even though it touches on topics that can be emotional, but that still comes with a bit of a hopeful feeling. And so that whatever I'll do, it will have a bit of that feeling, I think.
All right, film family. Minha Casinha Autumn will be available for streaming on Amazon Prime on the 2nd of June. The review for it is out now on the Silver Screen Dudes YouTube channel. As I've mentioned, it is one of my movies of the year without even blinking. It's absolutely great. Antonio Sequeira, thank you so much for coming on the channel. And I hope it's not the last time we get to speak. I look forward to what you do next.
I hope not. I hope not. And if the guys as well, anybody wants to go see it in the big screen, we have as well a screening on the 17th of June in the Rio Cinema that we just got it recently. So if anybody wants to see it as well in the big screen, that's an opportunity. I'll be there as well for a Q&A.
Beautiful. Love that. All right, guys, until next time. And also look out for an interview with Miguel and Beatrice, who will be coming on the channel as well. So look out for that. And until next time, long love cinema, support independent cinema, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye for now.